Hi. Um, so I wanted to tell y'all about one of my dreams that was for me. Vision. Um, One about faith. So this was one of the dreams of three. Many of you know that dreams of three, God's putting a stamp on it, right? He's putting a stamp on it. Means something. Um, Anyways, it was about faith. And in this vision, I'm running down the road. And the enemy, as we all know, is the devil, Satan. He is our true enemy. Then I wasn't quite understanding as to what God was meaning about faith. Been growing in a lot of it myself through the years. And I had this dream back in, I want to say 2002. I was about 22 years old, still very young. Um, and it was just me and God learning. Never anybody else. Never had anybody else to help me. So God's always been a big help. He's been my father, the only one true father that I've ever really clung to. He's been there for me, never broken a promise, been there to listen when nobody else was. As he said in this dream, he's my rock, he's my shield. Anyways, in this vision, I'm running down the road, and the enemy he's just throwing what looks like these fireballs. But if you look up in the Bible, it says arrows, which is you can understand. Pretty sure understand that's a bit of a confusion, right? You're expecting actual arrows, but these were fireballs, and the enemy's throwing literal fireballs at me, and I'm dodging each one of them, just dodging back and forth, and so I get up to this house, and it has this big, like, brick foundation. Just a brick foundation on it with a nice front porch. Anyways, by the front door is one of those, like, aluminum or metal trash cans. And automatically I pick up the handle of the lid that sits on top of it, and I hold it out in front of me as my shield. And those of us that study the full armor of God, the shield means faith. The porch, the concrete porch, was the rock. The house was God. We can take refuge in God. We can stand on His rock if we will just hold up the shield of faith. Hang on to faith. And I know in this world, it's hard. It's hard because things don't happen the way we want them to happen. They don't happen when we want them to happen, how we want them to happen. And I know I'm probably going to step on some toes here, but we're a bunch of little spoiled brats. There's a lot of people in this world that are just a bunch of little spoiled brats. They want it now, and they're going to whimper and whine and cry because they're just not getting their way. They're not getting it right now. They're not getting what they want when they want, and they don't understand they're not in control. We're not. We're just simply not. We're not in control. We can try to do things our own way, but in the end, it's not really going to turn out how we want it. It may last for a little while, but it doesn't last forever. There's people out there that will lie. They'll lie to get their way. They'll lie about situations, and they think, okay, this is going to pan out for me. And it might if it's somebody else who's not following God. But, if it's somebody who's of God, it's not going to work out. Bible says so. And if you study your word, you know what I say is true. So, if you think you're in control, you're not. All we need to do is sit still and know that he's God, that he's in control, that he knows what he's doing. And if he has said no, well then by all means it's no. It's not maybe or maybe later like some of us parents will do to our kids. No, God is a good God. He's a good judge. And he's going to take care of us. Not in the way that we might think, but in the way that he knows is good, that will work out for his name's sake, that will work out for his good and our good. Why? Because he loves us. And if we will stand in faith and hold on to the promises that he's made us, not whimper and whine and bicker and complain, but actually sit still and know and say, okay, God has said this. I know it's going to come true. And I just need to just breathe and know that everything's going to be okay. It may not happen now. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen next week. It may not happen next month. It may not even happen next year. But it's going to happen. And some people I've heard say, I can't wait another year. Well, I hate to tell you that if you want what's good for you, not just what you want, what you think you want for yourself, but what you really want for yourself, and God knows this because he knows our hearts and our minds better than we do. If you're waiting for that someone that's for you, then just wait. Wait. Pray. Pray for him. Pray for your growth. Stand in faith. Know that God will bring them to you. God will reveal him to you or her. Just wait. If something's bad has happened to you, just wait. God will fight for you. He will fight for you. Just stand in faith. God's got you. It's not the end of the world. And we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. For those that think they can't go on no more. It's not the end. And I promise you that even if you feel him or not, Jesus is right there with you. And he's willing and ready to listen if you'll let him. Stand in faith today. Stand and know that he is God and that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We can make this. We can do this. Remember the truth. Stand in truth. Stand on his promise. Stand in faith. Make sure that every morning you've got your helmet of righteousness. Wait, back up. Your helmet of salvation. It's your breastplate of salvation. I get backwards. Then make sure you have your belt of truth on. Make sure you've got your boots of peace on. You need those. Because if not, you just can't get through the day. Make sure that you've got that sword, which is God's word. Remember his word because it is his promise. And if you're in his word, you know that you're not the only one that's gone through what you're going through. You're not the only one. Think what Job went through. Moses. Think what Moses went through. There are lots of people who have been through a lot of the situations you're going through in the Bible. And if you think Job and Moses didn't go through something, imagine what this world has put Jesus through. Don't just think it was just because it's the people in the past that put Jesus through that. If we're repeating those same sins, we're putting him through it too. It's only when we commit to that salvation and stand in faith that we're no longer hurting him. We're no longer making it where when he died on a cross in vain. Because he did it for us. He did it for our salvation. He did it so we'd have something to stand on. A promise. A promise that we can hold on to faith in. Know he's always going to be there with us. Faith just isn't something, just out there. It's a literal thing. It's a physical thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a mental thing. It's everything you need to keep moving forward. This past year, I think, is where I learned this the most. I was in a car accident and everything went bad for me. And I was lied about. People I didn't even know. People judged me. And I would have thought all of my life I would have been used to stuff like that. But it hurt. Knowing that I had no control. That nothing that I could do was making any difference. And I just had to say, okay. Okay, God. Okay. You're in control. You fight for me. Like you said you would. And he's done it. He's fought for me. He's been there for me. He has stood by my side. And in these last few weeks, I've seen some miraculous miracles come to pass. And I'm not going to say what I've seen, but I'm telling you, I've seen God pull through for me. No, my car's not fixed yet, but I'm still standing in faith. And I'm overwhelmed with joy knowing that God's going to fix it. That because I stood in truth and I refused to lie. I refused to stand in a lie and I stood in faith. And I'm still standing in faith that I know that God's going to come through for me. And if he'll come through for me, he'll come through for you. And just so y'all know, it's been almost a year since the accident. And it's only been in the last couple of weeks that I've really started seeing stuff. So just because it didn't happen yesterday, it didn't happen today, and it may not happen tomorrow or next week or next month, does not mean that it won't happen. I've seen God move. And you can too. Just do like Elijah did and ask God to open your eyes. And really allow him to open your eyes. To see the army around you fighting for you, moving mountains for you. Stand in faith. Don't lose faith. It's all going to be okay. I thought I'd share that with you. I know the dream was just for me, but it doesn't mean it can't help somebody else. I love y'all. I do. I don't know who you are, but know I love you, and I'm always praying for you. I don't know your name, but I know a God that does, and He loves you too.